Christmas Eve. The office building stood dark and silent. Isaac Reed waited by the elevator, his shift finally over when he felt someone behind him. He turned. Eleanor Vale, the billionaire CEO known for her ice-cold demeanor, stood there with an expression he had never seen on her face before. Desperation. She stepped closer, her voice barely steady, but resolute. "Isaac, I need you to pretend to be my husband tomorrow." Why would one of the most powerful women in the country beg a single father like him for something like this? Isaac stared at her, trying to process what she had just said. Eleanor Vale did not make requests. She gave orders. She closed deals worth millions before breakfast. She had been featured on the cover of Forbes 3 times before turning 30, and now she stood in front of him asking him to play her husband. "I'm sorry. What?" Isaac said. Eleanor did not repeat herself. Instead, she glanced toward the glass doors leading to the lobby, then back at him. Her jaw was tight, her shoulders squared, but her hands were trembling. "I know how this sounds," she said quietly, "but I wouldn't ask if I had any other option." The elevator doors opened. Neither of them moved. Isaac worked in IT on the 6th floor of Vale Industries. He fixed servers, troubleshot network issues, and kept his head down. He had been with the company for 3 years, and in all that time, he had seen Eleanor Vale exactly twice. Once during a company-wide meeting where she spoke for 8 minutes and left. Once in passing when she walked through his floor with a team of lawyers and did not look at anyone. She was not the kind of person who knew his name until tonight, apparently. "Why me?" Isaac asked. Eleanor looked at him directly. Her eyes were dark and exhausted. "Because you're real," she said, "and because I don't have time to find anyone else." Isaac felt the weight of his phone in his pocket. Ruby was with the neighbor tonight. Mrs. Calloway had agreed to watch her until he got home, but only because Isaac had promised to pay her by the end of the week. He was already 2 months behind on Ruby's medical bills. The hospital had started sending letters, the kind with bolded texts and deadlines. He should have walked away. He should have said no and gone home to his daughter. But Eleanor was still looking at him. 4 days, she said. "That's all I need. You show up with me tomorrow. You meet my family. You act like we're together. After that, you never have to see me again." Isaac crossed his arms. "And what do I get out of this?" Eleanor did not hesitate. $200,000. The air between them went still. Isaac felt his chest tighten. $200,000. That was more than he made in 4 years. That was Ruby's medical debt, the mortgage he was behind on, the security he had been chasing since the day his ex-wife left and never came back. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Eleanor stepped closer. "I know you have a daughter," she said. "I know you're struggling. I'm not asking you to do this for free. I'm asking you to help me, and I'll help you." Isaac looked at her, really looked at her. Eleanor Vale was polished, controlled, untouchable. But right now she looked like someone who was drowning. "Why do you need this?" he asked. Eleanor's expression hardened. "My family owns Vale Industries. My grandfather built it. My father expanded it, and now they're deciding whether or not I'm stable enough to take over. They think I'm too young, too cold, too focused on work, and not enough on life. So, they gave me an ultimatum. Show up to Christmas with someone I care about, or they'll hand the company to my Uncle Victor." Isaac frowned. "So, you need a fake boyfriend." "I need a fake husband," Eleanor corrected. "They won't believe anything less." Isaac let out a slow breath. This was insane. This was something that happened in movies, not real life. But the number was still sitting in his head. $200,000. And after 4 days, he asked, "You go back to your life. I go back to mine. No one ever knows." Isaac should have said no. He should have told her to find someone else. Someone who knew how to navigate her world. Someone who belonged there. But he thought about Ruby, about the way she had looked at him last week when he told her they couldn't afford the school trip. About the medical bills stacked on his kitchen counter. About the future he was trying to build for her on a foundation that kept crumbling. "Okay," he said. Eleanor's shoulders dropped slightly. Relief. Actual relief. "Thank you," she said. Isaac nodded, but his stomach was already twisting. "When do we start?" Eleanor said. She gestured toward the elevator. "We need to go over the details. My family will ask questions. They'll try to catch us in a lie. We need to be prepared." Isaac followed her into the elevator. The doors closed, and the small space suddenly felt suffocating. Eleanor pressed the button for the top floor. Isaac had never been to the executive level before. When the doors opened, the hallway was silent. The walls were lined with dark wood and soft lighting. Eleanor led him to a private conference room at the end of the hall. She closed the door behind them. Isaac stood near the table, unsure where to sit. Eleanor walked to the far end of the room and turned to face him. "Before we go any further," she said, "there's one condition." Isaac waited. Eleanor's voice was calm, but her eyes were sharp. "If either of us develops real feelings during this arrangement, we have to confess immediately. The moment you feel something, you tell me. The moment I feel something, I tell you, and if that happens, the contract ends. No money, no deal, nothing." Isaac stared at her. "You're serious," Eleanor said. "This only works if it stays fake. The second it becomes real, it's over. And if you break that rule and don't tell me, you won't see a single dollar. Do you understand?" Isaac felt something cold settle in his chest. She was not joking. She was protecting herself, or maybe protecting both of them. "And there's more," Eleanor continued. "After the 4 days, you'll be transferred to our branch in Denver. You'll have a new position, better pay. But you won't be in this city anymore. You won't work in this building. You won't see me again." Isaac's throat tightened. "You're exiling me." "I'm protecting both of us," Eleanor said. "If you stay here, people will ask questions, they'll dig. This only works if we disappear from each other's lives completely." Isaac looked down at his hands. Denver. That was 800 miles away. Ruby would have to change schools, leave her friends, start over. But $200,000, a clean slate, a future. He looked up at Eleanor. "What if I say no?" "Then you walk out of here and we never speak again," Eleanor said. "But I think you know what your answer is." Isaac hated that she was right. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. He opened the photo app and turned the screen toward her. It was a picture of Ruby. She was smiling, holding a drawing she had made at school. A family, a house, a son. "Her name is Ruby," Isaac said. "She's 7. She's the only thing that matters to me. If I do this, it's for her, not for you, not for your family, for her." Eleanor looked at the photo for a long moment. When she looked back at Isaac, something in her expression had shifted just slightly. "Then we have a deal," she said. She walked to the table and opened a leather folder. Inside was a contract. She slid it across to him, along with a pen. Isaac read through it. The terms were clear. 4 days, $200,000 upon completion. Transfer to Denver within 1 week. No contact after. No exceptions. At the bottom, there was a line for his signature. Isaac picked up the pen. His hand hovered over the paper. This was it, the moment he could still walk away. But he thought about Ruby, about the hospital bills, about the life he wanted to give her. He signed. Eleanor took the contract and signed beneath his name. Then she folded it and placed it back in the folder. "We leave tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, she said. "Wear something formal. My driver will pick you up." Isaac nodded. Eleanor walked him to the door. Before he left, she looked at him one more time. "Isaac," she said, "thank you." He did not know what to say, so he just left. When he stepped out into the cold night air, the city felt different, louder, heavier. He pulled his coat tighter and started walking toward the subway. He had just agreed to pretend to be someone's husband, someone he barely knew, someone who lived in a world he did not belong to. And for the next 4 days, he would have to lie to everyone, including himself. The car arrived at 8:55 the next morning. Isaac had barely slept. He stood on the curb in a borrowed suit that did not quite fit, watching the black sedan pull up in front of his apartment building. The driver got out, opened the rear door, and waited. Isaac climbed in. Eleanor was already inside, dressed in a cream-colored coat and dark sunglasses. She looked like she belonged in a different world. She probably did. "Good morning," she said without looking at him. Isaac nodded. He did not trust his voice yet. The car pulled away from the curb and merged into traffic. Neither of them spoke for the first 10 minutes. Isaac stared out the window, watching the city give way to wider streets. Then gated neighborhoods. Then long driveways hidden behind stone walls and iron gates. Eleanor finally broke the silence. "My mother will be the hardest," she said. "She doesn't trust anyone. She'll watch you like a hawk. My sister Clara will try to trip you up. She thinks this is funny. My Uncle Victor will ignore you unless he sees an opportunity to use you against me." Isaac turned to look at her. "And your father?" Eleanor's expression did not change. "He's dead." Isaac wished he had not asked. "I'm sorry." "Don't be," Eleanor said. "He's been gone for 3 years. The company should have been mine then, but the board wanted to wait. They wanted to see if I could handle it, if I was ready, apparently. Being good at your job isn't enough. You also have to prove you're human." Isaac heard the bitterness in her voice. It was the first real emotion she had shown since last night. "Is that why you're doing this?" he asked. "To prove you're human?" Eleanor turned to look at him. Her sunglasses hid her eyes, but he could feel the weight of her gaze. "I'm doing this because I don't have a choice," she said. "Just like you." The car turned onto a long driveway lined with trees. At the end of it sat the Vale estate. It was not a house. It was a monument. Stone walls, tall windows, columns flanking the entrance. The kind of place that made you feel small just looking at it. The car stopped in front of the main entrance. The driver opened the door. Eleanor stepped out first. Isaac followed. The front door opened before they reached it. A woman stood in the doorway, tall and sharp-eyed, dressed in a dark gray dress that looked like it cost more than Isaac's car. Her hair was pulled back tightly and her expression was unreadable. "Mother," Eleanor said. The woman's gaze moved to Isaac. She looked him up and down, taking in every detail. Isaac felt like he was being scanned. "So, this is him?" the woman said. Eleanor stepped beside Isaac and took his hand. Her grip was firm, almost too firm. "This is Isaac Reed," Eleanor said. "My husband." The word hung in the air. Isaac forced himself to smile. "It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Vale," he said. The woman did not smile back. "We'll see," she said. She turned and walked inside. Eleanor and Isaac followed. The interior of the house was as cold as the exterior. Marble floors, high ceilings, artwork that looked like it belonged in a museum. Everything was pristine. Everything was perfect. Everything felt like a trap. They were led into a sitting room where 2 other people were waiting. One was a younger woman with dark hair and a sharp smile. The other was a man in his 50s, gray at the temples, wearing a suit that looked like it had been tailored that morning. The younger woman stood immediately. "Ellie," she said, her voice bright and false. "You didn't tell me you were bringing a guest." Eleanor did not let go of Isaac's hand. "Clara, this is Isaac. Isaac, this is my sister." Clara's smile widened. She walked over and extended her hand. Isaac shook it. Her grip was ice. "How wonderful," Clara said. "I didn't even know you were seeing anyone." "We've been keeping it private," Eleanor said smoothly. Clara's eyes flickered with something Isaac could not quite read. Amusement, maybe. Or suspicion. The man in the suit stood as well. He did not offer his hand. "Victor Vale," he said. "Eleanor's uncle." Isaac nodded. "Nice to meet you." Victor's gaze lingered on Isaac for a moment longer than necessary. Then he sat back down. Eleanor's mother folded her hands in her lap. "So," she said, "Isaac Reed, tell me about yourself." Isaac felt Eleanor's hand tighten around his. "I work in IT," Isaac said. I've been with Vale Industries for 3 years. Mrs. Vale's expression did not change. And how did you and my daughter meet? Isaac opened his mouth, but nothing came out. He had not prepared for this. They had not talked about this. Eleanor spoke before the silence could stretch too long. We met at work, she said. He fixed my laptop after it crashed during a board meeting. I was furious. He stayed calm. We started talking. Clara leaned forward. How romantic, she said. And when did this happen? Eleanor did not miss a beat. 8 months ago. Clara's smile sharpened. 8 months, and none of us knew. I wanted to keep it private, Eleanor said. I didn't want the press involved. I didn't want the board questioning my judgment. Mrs. Vale's eyes narrowed. And yet here you are introducing him now. Eleanor met her mother's gaze. Because he matters, she said. And I'm tired of pretending he doesn't. The room went quiet. Isaac felt the weight of every eye on him. He forced himself to breathe normally. Victor finally spoke. What are your intentions with my niece? Isaac looked at him. The question was a trap. Any answer could be wrong. I care about her, Isaac said. That's all. Victor leaned back in his chair. Caring isn't enough in this family, he said. You'll learn that soon enough. Clara laughed softly. Uncle Victor, don't scare him off already. We just met him. Mrs. Vale stood. Dinner is at 7, she said. Don't be late. She left the room without another word. Victor followed. Clara stayed for a moment longer, her eyes on Isaac. Good luck, she said. Then she left. 2. Isaac exhaled. Eleanor let go of his hand. That went better than I expected, she said quietly. Isaac looked at her. That was better. Eleanor almost smiled. Almost. Come on, she said. I'll show you where we're staying. She led him through the house, up a wide staircase, down a long hallway lined with portraits of people who all looked like they were judging him. At the end of the hall, she opened a door. The room inside was large and elegant. A 4-poster bed dominated the space. There was a sitting area by the window, a fireplace, and 2 doors leading to what Isaac assumed were a bathroom and a closet. We'll be sharing this room, Eleanor said. My mother will check. She always does. Isaac looked at the bed. I can sleep on the floor. You'll sleep in the bed, Eleanor said. We're supposed to be married. Married people sleep in the same bed. Isaac nodded slowly. This was fine. This was part of the deal. Eleanor walked to the window and looked out over the estate grounds. I'm sorry about my family, she said. They're not easy. Isaac joined her by the window. You don't have to apologize. Eleanor turned to look at him. Yes, I do, she said. You're here because I asked you to be. The least I can do is acknowledge that this is miserable. Isaac almost laughed. It's not that bad. Eleanor raised an eyebrow. You're a terrible liar. Isaac smiled despite himself. Yeah, I know. For a moment. They just stood there looking at each other. Then Eleanor turned away. Get some rest, she said. Dinner will be worse. She was right. Dinner was held in a dining room that could seat 20 people. The table was set with crystal and silver. Candles burned in tall holders. Everything gleamed. Isaac sat beside Eleanor, trying not to touch anything he did not have to. Clara sat across from them, still smiling that sharp smile. Mrs. Vale sat at the head of the table. Victor sat beside her. The first course was served. Isaac had no idea what it was. He ate it anyway. Clara was the first to speak. So Isaac, she said, do you have family? Isaac set down his fork. I have a daughter, he said. Her name is Ruby. She's 7. Clara's eyebrows lifted. A daughter? How lovely. And where is her mother? Isaac felt his jaw tighten. She's not in the picture. Clara tilted her head. I see. So, you're a single father? Yes. Clara glanced at Eleanor. Did you know about this? Eleanor did not look at her sister. She looked at Isaac. Of course I did, she said. Ruby is wonderful. Isaac felt something shift in his chest. She had never met Ruby, but the way she said it made it sound real. Mrs. Vale spoke next. "And how does your daughter feel about this relationship?" Isaac met her gaze. "She's happy. She wants me to be happy." Mrs. Vale's expression did not soften. "Children often want what's best for their parents," she said, "even when their parents don't know what that is." The words landed like a stone. The meal continued. The questions kept coming. Where did they go on their first date? What did Isaac think of Eleanor's work? Did he understand what it meant to be part of this family? Isaac answered as best he could. Eleanor filled in the gaps. By the time dessert was served, Isaac felt like he had been interrogated for hours. And then Clara leaned forward. "I have an idea," she said. "Let's play a game." Eleanor's expression hardened. "Clara, it's simple," Clara said. "If you two are really in love, you should be able to prove it." Mrs. Vale set down her glass. "Clara, that's enough." Clara ignored her. "Just one kiss," she said. "Right here, right now. If you're really married. It shouldn't be a problem." Isaac felt his heart kick against his ribs. Eleanor's hand found his under the table. Her grip was tight. "Fine," Eleanor said. She turned to Isaac. Her eyes were calm, but he could see the tension in her shoulders. "It's okay," she said softly. Isaac nodded. He leaned in. Eleanor met him halfway. Their lips touched. It was supposed to be simple, a performance, nothing more. But the moment their mouths met, something changed. The kiss deepened. Isaac's hand moved to her jaw. Eleanor's fingers curled into his shirt. It felt real. When they pulled apart, Isaac's heart was pounding. Eleanor's breath was unsteady. Clara was still smiling. "Well," she said, "that was convincing." Isaac could not look at Eleanor. He could not look at anyone because he had just broken the rule. He had felt something. The rest of the evening blurred together. Isaac barely heard the conversations around him. He barely tasted the food. All he could think about was the kiss, the way it had felt, the way Eleanor had looked at him afterward. When dinner finally ended, Eleanor led him back to their room. Neither of them spoke. Isaac closed the door behind them. Eleanor stood by the window, her back to him. "That was close," she said quietly. Isaac did not respond. Eleanor turned to face him. "Are you all right?" Isaac forced himself to nod. "Yeah, I'm fine." Eleanor studied him for a moment. Then she walked past him toward the bathroom. "I'm going to get ready for bed," she said. Isaac waited until the door closed. Then he sat down on the edge of the bed and put his head in his hands. He had made a mistake. He had let himself feel something, and now he did not know what to do about it. Later that night, Isaac lay awake in the dark. Eleanor was asleep beside him, her breathing soft and even. He stared at the ceiling, trying to will himself to sleep. And then he heard it, a sound, quiet at first, then louder, a whimper. Isaac turned his head. Eleanor was moving in her sleep, her face twisted in distress. "No," she whispered. "Don't leave me, please." Isaac sat up. Her hands were clenched into fists. She was dreaming a nightmare. "Eleanor," he said softly. She did not wake. "Please," she whispered again. Her voice broke. "Don't go." Isaac reached out and touched her shoulder. "Hey," he said. "It's okay. You're okay." Eleanor's eyes opened. She gasped, pulling away from him. "What?" Isaac held up his hands. "You were having a nightmare," he said. Eleanor sat up, pressing her hand to her chest. Her breathing was shallow. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't mean to wake you." Isaac shook his head. "You didn't." Eleanor ran a hand through her hair. She looked shaken, vulnerable, nothing like the woman who had walked into that dining room hours ago. "Do you want to talk about it?" Isaac asked. Eleanor looked at him for a long moment. She did not say anything. Then she spoke. "I dream about being alone," she said quietly. "About everyone leaving, about being the only one left in a house that's too big and too empty." Isaac felt something tighten in his chest. "You're not alone," he said. Eleanor looked away. "I know, but sometimes it feels like I am." Isaac did not know what to say, so he just stayed there, sitting beside her in the dark. After a while, Eleanor lay back down. Isaac did the same. "Thank you," she said softly. Isaac did not respond. He just closed his eyes. But he knew. He knew that something had shifted, something that could not be undone. The next morning, they woke to sunlight streaming through the windows. Neither of them mentioned the nightmare. Neither of them mentioned the kiss. But when Eleanor looked at him, Isaac saw something different in her eyes, and he knew she had felt it, too. The morning of the third day arrived with a heaviness neither of them acknowledged. Isaac woke first, the early light spilling across the bed. Eleanor was still asleep beside him, her face turned toward the window. She looked peaceful, younger somehow. He slipped out of bed quietly and went to the bathroom. When he returned, she was awake, sitting up against the headboard with her knees drawn to her chest. "Morning," Isaac said. Eleanor nodded but did not look at him. "We need to talk," she said. Isaac's stomach dropped. He sat on the edge of the bed, keeping distance between them. "About what?" Eleanor finally looked at him. Her eyes were steady, but there was something fragile beneath the surface. "About what happened at dinner," she said. "The kiss." Isaac swallowed. "It was for show. Clara made us." Eleanor shook her head slowly. "No," she said. "It wasn't just for show. And you know it." The words hung between them. Isaac wanted to deny it. He wanted to say she was wrong, but he could not. "I felt something," Eleanor said quietly. "And I think you did, too." Isaac closed his eyes. "Eleanor, we made a deal," he said. "If either of us felt something, we had to confess. That was the rule." Isaac opened his eyes and looked at her. "What are you saying?" Eleanor's voice was steady, but her hands were trembling. "I'm saying we broke the contract," she said. "Both of us." Isaac felt the floor drop out from under him. The money, Ruby's medical bills, the future he had been counting on. All of it was gone. "So that's it," he said. "It's over." Eleanor looked away. "It has to be." Isaac stood. He walked to the window and stared out at the estate grounds. Everything looked the same as it had yesterday, but everything had changed. "When do I leave?" he asked. Eleanor's voice was barely above a whisper. "You don't have to leave yet. Give me one more day. Just one. Not for my family. For us." Isaac turned to look at her. "Why?" Eleanor stood and crossed the room to him. She stopped a few feet away, her arms wrapped around herself. "Because I don't want this to end like this," she said. "Because I want to know what it feels like to have something real, even if it's just for one day." Isaac felt his chest tighten. He should have said no. He should have walked out right then, but he could not. "One day," he said. Eleanor nodded. "One day." They left the estate that afternoon without telling anyone. Eleanor texted her mother a brief excuse. She said they were going to see more of the city. It was a lie. They both knew they would not be coming back. Eleanor drove them in her own car, not the sedan with the driver. She wore jeans and a sweater. Isaac had never seen her dressed like that before. She looked like a different person, someone who was not carrying the weight of an empire on her shoulders. They drove to Isaac's neighborhood. It was nothing like the world Eleanor came from. Small houses, chain-link fences, kids playing basketball in the street. Isaac directed her to his apartment building. When they parked, Eleanor stared up at the worn brick facade. "This is where you live," she said. It was not a question. "Yeah," Isaac said. "This is it." They got out of the car. Isaac led her up the stairs to the second floor. He unlocked the door and pushed it open. The apartment was small. A narrow kitchen, a living room with a couch that had seen better days. 2 bedrooms down a short hallway. It was clean, but it was clear that money was tight. Eleanor stepped inside. She looked around slowly, taking in every detail. "Ruby's room?" she asked, nodding toward one of the closed doors. "Yeah." Eleanor walked over and opened the door. Inside was a small bed covered in a pink comforter. Drawings were taped to the walls. A stuffed bear sat on the pillow. Eleanor stood in the doorway for a long moment. Then she turned to Isaac. "She's lucky to have you," she said. Isaac did not know what to say to that. They spent the afternoon in the apartment. Eleanor sat on the couch while Isaac made coffee. They talked not about the contract, not about her family, just about small things, movies they had seen, books they had read, the kind of conversation two people have when they are trying to know each other. At some point, Eleanor picked up a drawing from the coffee table. It was one of Ruby's. Stick figures holding hands, a house, a sun. "She drew this?" Eleanor asked. Isaac nodded. "She draws all the time. That one's her family, me and her." Eleanor traced her finger over the figures. "It's beautiful," she said. Isaac watched her. There was something in her expression he had not seen before. Longing, maybe. Or sadness. "What was your childhood like?" Isaac asked. Eleanor set the drawing down. "Lonely," she said. "My parents were always working. Clara and I were raised by nannies. We had everything we needed except them." Isaac sat down beside her. "Is that why you work so hard to prove you're not like them?" Eleanor looked at him. "Maybe," she said. "Or maybe I'm exactly like them. Maybe that's the problem." Isaac shook his head. "You're not like them." Eleanor's eyes softened. "How do you know?" Isaac gestured toward the drawing. "Because you looked at that and saw something beautiful, not something beneath you." Eleanor did not respond. She just looked at him, and then she leaned forward and kissed him. This time, it was not for show. This time, it was real. Isaac kissed her back. His hand moved to the side of her face. Her fingers tangled in his hair. The world outside disappeared. When they finally pulled apart, Eleanor rested her forehead against his. "I don't want to leave," she whispered. Isaac closed his eyes. "I know." But they both knew the truth. This was borrowed time. One day, that was all they had. Later, they picked Ruby up from Mrs. Calloway's apartment down the hall. When Ruby saw Eleanor, her eyes went wide. "Who's that?" Ruby asked. Isaac crouched down to her level. "This is Eleanor. She's a friend of mine." Ruby tilted her head. "A girlfriend." Isaac glanced at Eleanor. She was smiling, a real smile. "Something like that," Isaac said. Ruby's face lit up. She grabbed Eleanor's hand. "Do you want to see my room?" Eleanor looked at Isaac. He nodded. "I'd love to," Eleanor said. Ruby dragged her inside. Isaac followed. For the next few hours, they were a family. Ruby showed Eleanor every drawing she had ever made. Eleanor listened to her talk about school and her friends and the book she was reading. They made dinner together. Spaghetti with jarred sauce. Nothing fancy. But Ruby was laughing and Eleanor was smiling, and Isaac felt something he had not felt in years, hope. After dinner, Ruby fell asleep on the couch between them. Isaac carried her to bed. When he came back, Eleanor was standing by the window, looking out at the street below. "Thank you for today," she said quietly. Isaac stood beside her. "You don't have to thank me." Eleanor turned to look at him. "Yes, I do," she said. "Today was the first time I felt like I belonged somewhere, like I was part of something real." Isaac reached for her hand. "You do belong here." Eleanor shook her head. "No, I don't. And you know it." Before Isaac could respond, his phone buzzed. He pulled it out and looked at the screen. It was a notification from his bank. A deposit. $200,000. Isaac stared at the number. "What is it?" Eleanor asked. Isaac showed her the screen. Eleanor's face went pale. "I authorized the payment this morning," she said. "Before we left. I know we broke the contract. I know the deal is off, but you need this money. Ruby needs this money. So, I'm giving it to you anyway. Not because of the contract, because I want to." Isaac's throat tightened. You thought what? Eleanor's voice broke. I thought maybe if I gave you the money with no strings attached, you wouldn't feel trapped. You could make a real choice. Stay or leave. Not because you need the money, but because you want to. Isaac felt something crack open inside him. I don't want to be free, he said. I want to be with you. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. But you can't. We agreed. After 4 days, you leave. You go to Denver. We never see each other again. Isaac shook his head. Then we changed the agreement. Eleanor stepped back. We can't. If you stay here, people will ask questions. The press will find out. Your life will be torn apart. Ruby's life will be torn apart. I can't do that to you. Isaac grabbed her hand. Then come with us. Eleanor stared at him. What? Isaac pulled her closer. Come with us to Denver. Leave all of this behind. The company, your family, all of it. Eleanor's voice was barely a whisper. I can't. Isaac felt the words like a punch to the chest. Why not? Eleanor pulled her hand away. Because I've spent my entire life building this, she said. The company, my career, everything. I can't just walk away from it. Isaac felt the distance between them growing. Even if it means losing this? Eleanor looked at him. Tears were streaming down her face now. I don't know, she said. Isaac turned away. He could not look at her anymore. Then I guess we're done, he said. Eleanor did not respond. She just stood there crying silently. After a long moment, she walked to the door. I'm sorry, she said. Then she left. Isaac stood in the empty apartment, staring at the door. The money was in his account. Ruby's future was secure. He had everything he had asked for, but it felt like he had lost everything that mattered. He did not sleep that night. He sat on the couch until dawn, then woke Ruby and took her to Mrs. Calloway's. He promised he would be back soon. He promised everything would be okay. Ruby looked at him with worried eyes. Where's Eleanor? She asked. Isaac could not answer. The 4th day was supposed to be the last performance. One final breakfast with the Vale family. One final act of pretending. But neither of them went back to the estate. Isaac spent the morning packing. The transfer to Denver was still happening. Eleanor had made sure of that before everything fell apart. She had told him yesterday, her voice hollow. The transfer was his. No matter what happened between them, he would have a better job, better pay, a fresh start for him and Ruby. It was the right thing, the logical thing. But it felt like the end of everything. He had already given notice at his apartment. Everything was happening exactly as planned. Except nothing felt right. He dropped Ruby off at Mrs. Calloway's one last time to say goodbye. Then he drove to the office to pick up his final paperwork. When he walked into the building, everything looked the same, but it felt different, like he was seeing it for the last time. He took the elevator to the 6th floor. His desk had already been cleared out. A box with his personal items sat on the chair. Isaac picked up the box and turned to leave. And then he saw her. Eleanor was standing by the elevator. She was soaked. Her hair was dripping. Her clothes were drenched. She looked like she had walked through a storm. Isaac stopped. What are you doing here? He asked. Eleanor took a step toward him. I quit, she said. Isaac stared at her. What? Eleanor's voice was shaking, but her eyes were clear. I quit. I told the board this morning. I told my mother. I told everyone. I'm done. Isaac set the box down. Eleanor crossed the distance between them and grabbed his hands. I was wrong, she said. I spent my whole life thinking the company was all I had, that if I lost it, I'd have nothing. But I was wrong, because the day I spent with you and Ruby was worth more than every deal I've ever closed, every board meeting, every dollar I've ever made. I don't want the company. I want you. Isaac felt his chest tighten. What about your family? Eleanor shook her head. They'll survive without me, but I won't survive without you. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a ring, the same ring she had worn during their time at the estate, the fake wedding ring. I don't want this to be a prop anymore, she said. I want it to be real. I want us to be real. Isaac looked down at the ring. Then he looked at her. Are you sure? Eleanor nodded. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Isaac took the ring from her hand, but he did not put it on his finger. Instead, he pulled her into his arms. I don't need a ring, he said. I just need you. Eleanor buried her face in his chest and started to cry. Not out of sadness, out of relief. They stood there for a long time, holding each other in the middle of the empty office, when they finally pulled apart. Isaac wiped the tears from her face. Let's go get Ruby, he said. Eleanor smiled. Okay. 1 year later, they lived in a small house on the outskirts of Denver. It was nothing like the Vale estate. No marble floors, no tall ceilings, no staff. But it was home. Ruby had her own room with drawings taped to every wall. Eleanor had learned how to make spaghetti without burning it. Isaac had taken a new job with better hours and better pay. And on weekends, the Vale family visited. Vale was still distant, but she had softened. Clara had apologized. Victor had stopped trying to manipulate everyone. They sat together at the small kitchen table, eating dinner and talking like a real family. Eleanor caught Isaac's eye across the table. She smiled. Isaac smiled back. This was not the life either of them had planned, but it was the life they had chosen.